And the fourth is bacteria. Now, teeth and bacteria are in our mouths. We have them all the time. You can't take them away. Even when you take out all your teeth, you still have bacteria in the mouth.
This is good and bad bacteria.
It's, I would say, completely good. It's all good.
All good. Okay.
As long as it remains in the mouth. If it gets out of the mouth, goes somewhere else, then it becomes bad.
So even if we have bacteria, okay, well, I was told that when you have bad breath, it's good bacteria that has gone bad. So even when it's producing that stench, do we still say that's good bacteria, provided it's in the mouth?
The bacteria remains good,
okay,
but the conditions around it. That's where the problem is.
So
now that's where diet comes in.
Okay, so what I eat could make that bacteria bad, that good bacteria bad.
Not really bad, but what comes out of it is what will become bad. Take an example of sugar. We love sugar. We enjoy sugar. Many of us will not take a cup of tea without sugar. And some take a lot of sugar, put a lot of sugar in that same small cup of tea. Now, refined sugar, especially sugar that comes out of a factory, this can be in many forms. The sugar we put in the tea, the biscuits, the chocolates, the ice cream, so many things, sweets, all those things have refined sugar in them. Now, this sugar sticks or gets stuck onto the tooth surfaces.
The enamel.
The enamel, yes. Now, the bacteria that we have in the mouth that are good digest this sugar, then produce lactic acid. Now, it is this lactic acid that begins to degrade the structure of the tooth.
Starting with the enamel.
Obviously, because it's what is outside.
Yeah. Right.
And that takes me back to the other four things that I talked about. We have the tooth structure. Now, if you look at our front teeth, they have what we call a smooth surface. Yeah. That surface that we see when we smile. Then we have the biting surface. Now, the front teeth have a very thin biting surface. Excuse me. Excuse me. The hind teeth have a very large, we don't call it biting, we call it chewing surface. But it's wide and it has grooves in it. Now, in those grooves, food gets stuck in there, and the bacteria that we have in the mouth begin to have a party, they produce acids, and then the acids begin eroding the tooth structure. And that is why hind teeth easily get decayed as compared to the front teeth, because the smooth surface is easily cleaned by the cheek, by the lips, by the lips, yes, by the tongue, and the saliva that we have, which doesn't happen so much.
Right. Okay, let's talk about diet and diet that is appropriate for the health of the teeth. What should we be taking in to help our teeth remain stronger for long?
Okay, number one, we need to reduce, or maybe I should start with a positive. We need to do more of natural sugars. The fruits, the vegetables. You might wonder if vegetables have sugar in them, but they do. Like, sugar is not the sweet kind of taste that we have, but sugar is the chemical nature, or what I would call the carbohydrates themselves, because they're just building blocks. The glucose is the basic block. So when it's built up in many forms, it forms the different types of sugars. So if we have the natural ones, then we know that we are on the way of getting our teeth strong and also avoiding the decay. Yeah.
But there's one thing that a number of people, which we did in our conversation earlier on, you talked about how ketchup, tomato sauce, what we love the most, it's not just the sweet things, but also that ketchup.
Yeah, that's something important, because sugars are hidden in many ways. There is a lot of sugar in the ketchup. There's a lot of sugar in the sodas. Now, someone might say that I take Stony. Stony doesn't taste any, it's not sweet at all. But the amount of sugar in that Stony bottle, it's not, it's sugar that you can't put in a cup of tea of the same amount and you take. but the chemicals put therein kind of mimic the test, and then you're like, oh, this doesn't have sugar, but it has a lot of it. So ketchup, sodas.
What about packed juice?
Packed juice also has sugar, except for some that may not have. I may not have a particular brand in mind right now, but I would say that to our viewer out there, if you look at, if you go out to buy something, look at the contents, see what is in there. They may not put for you that you have maybe so many grams of sugar, but as long as there is sugar, you know that there must be a lot of it.
Okay, so talking about the health of the teeth from inside outwardly, even when you're talking about the skin, for your skin to look a certain way, for it to be healthy, it has to be from inside. Computer experts say giggle, garbage in, garbage out. Yes. So when we talk about, you mentioned fruits, is it just that for me to have healthy teeth from within? Do I have to take maybe calcium? Is it? What other food options do I have to ensure that I have a healthy meal for my body, but also to boost the health of my teeth?
I would say that more like you need to have a balanced diet.
Okay.
Fruits are good because fruits have natural sugar which does not stick onto the tooth surface. So fruits, I would say, basically avoid the decay, help to avoid the decay. But the rest of the foods that we need to take, you mentioned foods containing calcium, milk products. Some people are vegetarian, so they don't take milk, and that's okay. But there are other sources of calcium.
For example,
certain vegetables. I'm forgetting the particular name, but most vegetables have lots of minerals in them, especially the green leafy vegetables. They have lots of minerals, calcium being one of them. So you can have a lot of those because those will give the teeth the strength that they need. And then the other thing that you could add to the diet is to use toothpaste that has fluoride.
okay.
Toothpaste with fluoride, as you brush, fluoride, the chemical, kind of gets incorporated into the tooth structure, and it changes a little bit the structure of the tooth and makes it harder. So in that way, it avoids, it kind of pushes away decay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as we talk about, if I really love chocolate, I personally really love chocolate, so sometimes I can't help it, but I need to eat it.
Okay.
Yes. Now, brushing of my teeth, because I say, just how frequent should I brush my teeth? Because if I'm really can't help it, if I can't control it and I'm in love with it, how do I make sure my habit does not ruin my teeth?
Okay. Initially, I spoke about the 4 things, and one of them was time. Now, when you eat a sugar-containing food, it takes about 30 minutes for the pH, or the measure of acidity in the mouth, to drop to a critical level that will lead to tooth erosion. And so you need to brush before the 30 minutes elapse. So if you take the chocolate, the cake, the biscuit, the soda, have the ketchup and whatever it is that has that refined sugar, you need to brush, preferably I would say within 20 minutes, so that you interrupt the process.
30 minutes.
The lowering of the pH.
Yes.
Okay.
So once you do that, that's part of the timing that I spoke about. Once you do that, you will avoid the pH getting to that point where that critical point where the decay will start.
Okay.
And also something else, the timing. When do you eat these things? Many times we eat them as snacks. You're at work, perhaps you're doing something, and then you have a piece of chocolate next to you. You're typing, you're doing something on the computer, and you're eating as you do that. Now, that rarely do we go out to brush when we are doing some work. Rarely do we do that. So we tend to put our teeth more at risk with sugar-containing snacks. So avoid snacking during work. You can have the chocolate just before the main meal.
Okay.
Because there, the main meal, which is most probably not sugar-containing, will take it out. We'll wash it off.
So do we say that it helps to maybe take water as you take your chocolate as well, just to wash out, or to wash out the sugar, to rinse the mouth?
It does help.
To some
but-
extent.
To some extent.
Yeah.
The greatest challenge is the refined sugars get stuck onto the teeth, and water will not take them off.
You
So
need
it's
some
a
age
Brushing,
brush.
yes, brushing
Fluoride.
can.
Okay.
Carry your
Something-
toothpaste and toothbrush to work.
From now on, you may find it in my bag.
Something else to add about the timing. Sometimes we take these sugar-containing foods just before bed. Now, what happens at night is we have a decreased saliva production
Okay.
in our mouths. Saliva has antibacterial activity, and saliva is close to the pH of water. It's more like neutral. So it kind of neutralizes the acidity in the mouth. And also saliva washes away the food. So if there is no saliva, there is no antibacterial activity, there's no washing away of the foods, and there's no reversal of the acidity. So at night is the time that the bacteria tend to have so much of a party. So that's the time that we need to avoid eating the sugar-containing foods, or that is the time that we more especially need to brush.
Okay, all right. And of course, when you talk about, the diet bit to helping, or boosting the health of your teeth, we can't miss to talk about oral hygiene. Yes, so brushing your teeth after your chocolate is recommendable.
Toothbrush, toothpaste and toothbrush bits of it with fluoride in it.
With
Yes,
fluoride.
Fluoride.
Now, let's talk about tooth whitening. Of course, we know that the hygiene bit you have to brush quite often, especially if you have a sweet tooth. Teeth whitening. Some people say that using this cosmetic agents actually irritates the tooth, causes tooth sensitivity, and then they opt for the natural methods like baking soda. What are the dangers of using baking soda to whiten your teeth? Or to remove stains?
To remove stains. Tooth whitening is, if you go down to the basic chemical reaction that happens, is oxidation. Now, oxidation is the same thing that happens to a burning paper, or during burning. If something burns, it's getting oxidized. So a lot of oxygen is added to it. So that's that's basically what happens in whitening. Or sometimes you could call it bleaching.
Yes.
It's more like tooth bleaching. Now that means that the more the oxygen, the more the bleaching, the more the oxidation, and the more the effects of whatever it is that this oxygen is doing. Now, baking soda has 3 molecules of oxygen, which means it has a lot of oxygen. The products that we use, the dental products that we use for whitening, have what we call peroxides. Peroxides have 2 molecules of oxygen. So the oxygen in there is, I would say, controlled as compared to the baking soda. When you use the baking soda, you don't know how much to use, when to use it, and for how long. That could be one of the challenges that you could have.
Okay.
So as much as
it's
I
a
don't know
cheaper
if I should.
option.
Yeah, that would be the
So
way of
how
putting it.
often should someone use baking soda if
Now
that's what they use?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I have not really looked so much into baking soda.
Right.
But for whitening, we usually give you a particular amount of time that you can do per day.
All right.
So you don't do it all the time, because that oxygen affects your teeth with time. And true, sensitivity can come, because sometimes there is a bit of sensitivity, but we deal with that also along the way as the whitening is going on.
Yeah. So as we wrap up, flossing, because there's brushing, then there's flossing.
Okay.
Yeah, we've seen a number of people with strings. Toothpicks they have said you'd rather floss than actually use a toothpick.
Yeah.
Yes. So why flossing? Because
that's very true.
it's very stressful. You have like a string and you're putting it, and it's quite, you open your mouth so wide. Get a toothpick. It's quite easy to use.
Yeah. Maybe going a little bit back to the brushing, if you take these fingers of mine to be teeth, and perhaps these to be a toothbrush, now the toothbrush will clean here and there. It will not clean
in between,
because our teeth are stuck together like that. Some people have space teeth, but most people have teeth stuck together. So the toothbrush cleans here and there, but can't clean in there. But when we eat food, food goes in there. So that's where now the floss comes in. The floss cleans these surfaces. A toothpick cannot clean the surfaces. A toothpick goes maybe down there and pulls out something. And once that something is out, you're good to go. But floss is actually an active way of cleaning.
All right.
So you don't just floss to take out a piece of meat or chicken that is stuck in the teeth, but you floss to actually clean. It's like really brushing. The other thing about toothpicks is that as you push them in, they kind of push the teeth apart. So if that process goes on and on and on, there is that widening of the space between the teeth that will come with time. And a toothpick also presses on the gum. So with time, the gum, after being treated so harshly, will tend to recede, and then you'll have a space at where the gum was. So then that will now make life even more difficult for you, because more food will get stuck in there.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we have definitely learned a lot today. Let's not use toothpicks, please. Let's keep them far and far away. If you
Floss.
can, floss. I know that there are now some flossing sticks that come with a string, so you don't have to entirely be using a string on its own. Yes.
Yeah.
So there are ways of doing it. But thank you so much, Dr. Charles Kasozi.
Something to add about floss. The thicker the floss, the better.
Okay.
I have something here. It's called Champion. I'm not so sure if it's possible, if it's found in different pharmacies. I don't know, but I know that at Pandero Surgery it's easy to get it in there. It is thick, if I could pull this out. And one advantage that comes with its thickness is that it tends to engage the surfaces of the teeth and then does the cleaning. Like we say, the flossing is an active way of cleaning teeth.
Okay.
Yeah. So I
Interesting.
would recommend it.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So
welcome.
that is your tip for this week as you try and get healthier. Make sure your teeth are also healthy, as your diet can actually affect your teeth. So ketchup, chocolate, all the refined sugars in maybe a number of drinks that you're taking. If you've taken them, try and maybe brush in 20 minutes after you do, because slowly by slowly you might have your teeth losing their strength. It is Morning at NTV, and we'll be coming back with the business update. We have been joined by Dr. Charles Kasozi, and he is from Pan Dental Surgery. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, what a feeling, my whole world is changing.